Ever find yourself hitting that same wall trying to make a change? Start strong, then fall back into old
Oh,
habits.
yeah,
It's like trying to learn a new language, but just end up watching the same old shows.
I know exactly what you mean.
So that's where this deep dive comes in.
For sure.
You've all shared James Clear's Atomic Habits, and let me tell you, this book is jam-packed with insights on how to break those cycles and make a real change.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the best part is you don't need some superhuman willpower.
Yeah.
You don't need to overhaul your life. Atomic Habits is all about these small changes,
Okay.
these tiny 1% improvements that add up to huge results.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole 1% thing, because honestly, it sounds too good to be true, right? How can such small changes really make a difference?
Well, it all comes down to compounding. It's like Claire uses this great analogy. Imagine you get 1% better at something each day.
Okay.
That seems small, but over time it really multiplies.
Hold on, hold on. I remember this chart in the book. It was mind-blowing. It showed the difference between getting 1% better or 1% worse every day for a year.
Yeah. And the results, let me tell you, they are staggering. If you get just 1% better each day for a year, you end up 37 times better than when you started.
37 times. Okay, now that's a number I can get behind. But what if you get 1% worse each day?
Well, then you're pretty much back to zero, which highlights how these little choices, even the ones we don't think about, have a massive impact in the long run.
Oh.
And Clear calls this the aggregation of marginal gains. And this doesn't just apply to self-improvement. This is
Yeah.
business, relationships, everything.
So I'm hearing that instead of going for these big overnight changes, which, let's be honest, can be overwhelming, we should aim for these tiny, doable improvements in the things that really matter to us.
You got it. Think of it like building a house.
Yeah.
You don't just expect to build a skyscraper overnight.
Right.
You start with a good foundation,
Yeah.
brick by brick, and you create something really strong. Habits, they're the bricks of our lives.
That's a good analogy.
They're the compound interest of self-improvement.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people listening can relate to this. Why is it so darn hard to stick to good habits even when we know they're good for us?
Well, we get caught up in goals. We think, if I just lose those 10 pounds, I'll be happy. Or, if I hit this deadline, then I can relax. But the thing about goals is, they're focused on the outcome, not what you do to get there.
It's like saying, I want to run a marathon without thinking about all the training and dedication.
Exactly. And what happens when you do hit those goals?
Yeah.
Right. You hit the finish line. What's next? It's so easy to slip back into old habits.
So are we saying ditch goals altogether?
No, not at all. Goals are good for giving you direction, but they're just one part of it.
Okay.
It's the system, it's the process that really makes the difference.
Okay, so instead of focusing on the number on the scale, what if I focused on building like a system around healthier habits? So like cooking more meals at home or walking after dinner.
Now you're thinking like James Clear.
Yeah, okay.
It's about shifting from just the outcome to creating the system of atomic habits. They're small, almost invisible, but they compound just like those 1% improvements we talked about.
So it's more about playing the long game, right? So instead of
Uh,
looking for that quick fix, we build this sustainable system of good habits.
Exactly. You're building something that'll last.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do we actually build these atomic habits? And more importantly, how do we make them stick?
That is the million-dollar question, and that, my friend, is where things get even more interesting.
So how do we actually build these atomic habits and make them stick?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. We tend to think willpower is the key to change, right?
Oh, yeah.
But willpower, let's be real, it can be pretty flimsy.
For sure. Mine tends to disappear, especially
Yeah.
when there's a plate of cookies around.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
not just about willpower. It's about understanding the science behind how habits work. Clear gives us this really helpful framework, the 4 stages of habit formation: cue, craving, response, and reward.
Yeah.
Think of it like a cycle.
Okay.
Your brain goes through it with every single habit.
So break it down for me.
It all starts with a cue. It's anything in your environment or your routine that triggers your brain to do something. Like, let's say you're trying to start running every morning. Your cue could be putting your running clothes out the night before.
I get it. It's like a visual reminder. But what about those habits you don't even realize you're doing? Like, someone pointed out that I twirl my hair when I'm thinking. No cue needed, I guess.
The subconscious habits. Those are interesting. They develop over time. But those have cues, even if we don't realize it. Say you snack while watching TV, the cue might be just sitting on the couch.
Right, without even realizing it.
Exactly.
Okay, so the cue is the trigger. What's next?
Then comes the craving. This is what drives the habit, the motivation behind it. But here's the thing. You're not craving the habit itself. You're craving the feeling you get from it,
Okay, so with the running example, I'm not craving the actual run. I'm craving that feeling of accomplishment.
or the endorphins.
Yes.
Or, in the case of the TV snacker, it might be the comfort or distraction they get.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the cue leads to a craving, which then leads to...
The response. This is the actual habit, the action you take. It could be lacing up those shoes and running out the door, or grabbing those chips and settling in for a movie.
Gotcha. And finally, the reward. That's the good feeling, the outcome that makes you want to do it again. With running, it's that feeling of accomplishment, or maybe with snacking, it's enjoying the food itself.
And there you have it. Cue, craving, response, reward. That's the engine driving all your habits. And once you understand how it works, well, you can start to kind of hack it.
Hack it, you say. I love a good life hack. Tell me more.
One of the most effective ways to build a new habit is this technique called habit stacking.
Okay, I like the sound of this already.
It's about using your existing habits. You see, every habit, brushing your teeth, making coffee, they all create a starting point for something new.
So instead of starting from scratch, you're saying I can just add a new habit onto an old one.
Exactly. Let's say you want to meditate every morning. Instead of creating a whole new routine, stack it onto brushing your teeth.
So I would make it a new habit loop. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 5 minutes.
Now you're getting it. By linking the new habit to something you already do, it's like creating a shortcut.
Right.
Your brain already knows the drill. You're just adding a new step.
I love how simple yet effective that sounds. It's like a domino effect, but with good habits.
It's about making those new habits as easy as possible to do. But there's another important piece to this. We need to talk about your environment.
Oh, I'm really interested in how our surroundings can secretly impact our behavior.
It's true. Your environment, that is the invisible hand guiding your actions, sending out cues that can either help you or sabotage you.
So if I'm constantly surrounded by cues for bad habits, it's going to be harder to stick to my guns.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important for you to design your surroundings,
Okay.
to make it easier to stick with those good habits. You have that power.
This is starting to make a lot of sense, but how do we do that? Give me the practical tips. I need the secrets.
Well, let's dive into that right now. Think of it this way. Every single thing in your home.
So we were saying that everything in your house is sending you cues.
It's true. Every item, every app on your phone, every single person you interact with,
Oh, wow.
they're all potential cues. Like, if you're trying to cut back on social media, what could you do? Maybe move those apps off your home screen.
Oh, I like that.
Tuck them away in a folder.
Out of sight, out of mind. It's like hiding the cookie jar, you know? So I'm not tempted every time I walk by.
Exactly. Or, so you want to read more, instead of those books piled up by the bed, why not make a little reading nook?
Ooh,
A comfy chair, good lighting, make it inviting.
I love that. It's about making the good habits easier and more appealing. Like setting yourself up for success, right?
That's it. And don't forget about the people around you. Your social environment, it matters too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Surround yourself with people who support your goals. Makes those good habits contagious.
So true. You tend to pick up habits from those around you.
Right. So having that positive influence can make all the difference.
It can. So we've talked about cues, but is there anything else we need to know about building these lasting habits?
Yes. We need to make those habits satisfying. Remember that reward stage?
Yes.
Our brains, they crave pleasure, right?
Yeah.
They want to avoid pain.
Makes sense.
So if we want a habit to last, we've got to make it feel good.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Think about it. Why do so many people struggle with exercise?
It's hard.
It's because they associate it with pain or discomfort or just being bored.
Yeah, who wants to dread something they're trying to make a regular part of their life?
Right. So we've got to flip that script. We had to make those healthy habits enjoyable.
Right, like that.
So if you want to work out regularly, find something you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Put on some music.
Yeah?
Maybe grab a friend. Make it fun.
It's about turning those shoulds into wants. And that applies to anything, really.
Right. Well,
Eating healthier or writing more.
whatever it is.
Finding that enjoyment factor, that's key.
It is. And don't forget to celebrate those wins, even the little ones.
Oh, yeah, that's a good feeling.
Meditate for 5 minutes. High five. Resisted that donut. Pat yourself on the back.
Exactly. Give yourself some credit.
Those little victories add up. They make those habits stronger.
It's like giving your brain a little reward. Right.
Exactly, that positive reinforcement, it makes a big difference.
It really does. Wow, this deep dive into atomic habits has been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much about the power of small changes, how habits work, and all these strategies to make them stick.
And the best part is, you can start using these strategies today. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress.
That's right, those small changes add up. So, as you go about your day, think about one habit you'd like to build or maybe break, and ask yourself, how can I make this just a little bit easier, a little more enjoyable, so it really becomes a part of my life?
It's about progress, not perfection.
Until next time, keep those atomic habits building.